From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
You know, if we feel the buses can run, then we go to school.
As temperatures dip to frigid cold conditions, there's a lot that goes into daily decisions to keep Billings schools open and safe. But first, this is a live look from the Stockman Bank weather cam. The bitterly cold temperatures have settled into the Magic City, and that can spell danger when it comes to your health and homes. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jeanelle Slade. It's what everyone is talking about and trying to avoid: nasty cold temperatures wreaking havoc. We now turn to Chief Meteorologist Ed McIntosh with details on what this means for travelers out there. Ed.
Yeah, you know, I just want to give some good advice.
Yes.
Put some gas in the car. Yeah, let's take a look at the graphic here, because we actually had a situation that developed here even at Q2 for today. It'll prevent some gas line freeze up, condensation inside the gas tank, and then it could freeze up the gas line in some cases. Also, it gives you a little extra time if you're stuck. Make sure you have a full tank of gas, then run that engine intermittently to keep the cabin warm. Make sure that exhaust pipe is clear so you don't get any carbon monoxide inside your vehicle as well. And one third tip, it gives you a little extra weight in your vehicle as well. Anybody who's thrown a sandbag into the trunk knows what I'm talking about. 6.3 pounds per gallon. A full tank of gas could make a big difference there. We'll talk about the potential for needing the gas tank full. The forecast details coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, thanks so much, Ed. Well, along with freezing temperatures, chances are high for residents to experience a faulty furnace and frozen pipes. Q2's Jeanelle Slade catches up with two Billings businesses that offer some help.
Temperatures continue to drop. Heating and plumbing companies are receiving more calls regarding broken thermoses and frozen pipes. But what can be done to mitigate the sometimes costly effects of winter weather?
Well, the number one thing that we get a phone call on for this time of year is a no heat situation, and the biggest thing that we see is filters.
White says that filters need to be changed every 1 to 3 months depending on the home. He says that a dirty filter can trip a high temperature limit in the furnace, preventing it from running. It's important to have your furnace checked or inspected regularly, usually every year. He says that parts such as heat exchangers in a furnace can go bad and lead to harmful carbon monoxide levels. He also suggests investing in a carbon monoxide detector. Now, along with making sure that your furnaces are working properly throughout the winter, it's also important to ensure that the piping throughout your house doesn't freeze.
They can insulate them really well, find potential drafty areas that where wind can get to them, and block off those drafty areas or insulate extra well in those particular areas.
Lee says that they receive quite a few calls about broken pipes during this time of year, especially during the coldest days. He says that if you do notice you have frozen lines, to keep your faucets dripping to maintain a constant flow, and then call your plumber. Reporting in Billings, I'm Jeanelle Slade with MTN News.
All right, thanks so much, Shaq. Now, it's also important to remember to never use a blowtorch or other open flame in an attempt to thaw a frozen pipe. For more information, visit ktvq.com. Well, with the bitterly cold temperatures, many will turn up the heat, but that comes with an increased risk for fires as well. 1 in every 7 home fires and 1 in every 5 home fire deaths involves heating equipment. The Billings Fire Department offers some tips. Those include plugging portable electric heaters directly into wall outlets, cleaning out chimneys and vents, and storing cooled ashes in a tightly covered metal container at least 10 feet from your house. When dealing with frozen pipes, do not use open flame or heaters, as we just said, to thaw those pipes. It's also important to remember to keep anything that can burn at least 3 feet from any heat sources like fireplaces, wood stoves, or space heaters. Portable generators should be kept outside and as far away from your home as possible. As is the case at all times of year, make sure to check that all smoke alarms are in working order. Well, we all know these frigid temperatures are not a sure sign to shut down school in Montana. Although temperatures and wind chill make for dangerous conditions, there's a lot that plays into these daily decisions. That includes constant communication between school officials, bus officials, and weather experts. District 2 Superintendent Greg Upham says there's a lot to consider in the big picture.
Well, it's just not as easy as canceling school, because for some of our students, it's the only food they get, for one, and there's safety and security there. We also have a workforce that depends on us to do our job and so that they can do their job. So it's all intermingled. But it does come down to safety. And as I visit with our meteorologists, they give me worst case scenarios because that's what we'll base decisions off of. And so we're looking at some cold temps, and we'll monitor it through the week. At this point in time, we plan on being in school throughout the week. But if that changes, we'll make those announcements and we'll watch it very closely.
And Upham says make sure to get your contact information with the school updated for future robocalls and emails. He says parents and students should know where the alternate bus routes are. Make sure your children are dressed for the weather, and please wait at the bus stop with them until the bus picks them up. There's a complete list of safety tips and links to connect you with the district in this story at ktvq.com. And Upham is certain to point out that parents have a right to keep their children home if they feel it's unsafe having them walk or waiting for a bus. Well, in the second impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump, Montana's 2 U.S. senators once again are cast in the role of jurors deciding whether to convict or acquit Mr. Trump. Before the proceedings began this afternoon in Washington, they spoke with MTN chief political reporter Mike Dennison, and as you might expect, had very different takes on the trial.
Republican U.S. Senator Steve Daines says he believes the trial is unconstitutional and points to the language in Article 1, Section 3 of the Constitution, which says, quote, "When the president is tried, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court shall preside."
Trump is not the president. He is a private citizen, and the Chief Justice is not presiding. I think pursuing this impeachment trial would set a dangerous precedent as relates to private citizens. And the question is, when does this stop?
But even if the trial is valid, Daines says he's already made up his mind that Trump did not incite the rioters who attacked the Capitol on January 6th or commit any impeachable offense.
The crimes that were committed by those domestic terrorists who broke into our Capitol. They should be arrested and prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
He also said the impeachment is little more than a form of political revenge waged by Democrats who can't get over the fact that Trump won the 2016 election.
But impeachment is not the way to settle differences on policy. You do that through debate. You do that through elections.
Democratic U.S. Senator John Tester says the Senate should decide whether Trump is accountable for acts taken while he was president.
And if those acts were significant enough for incitement of violence, then he will be convicted. Well, at least I will vote to convict him. If they weren't significant enough to prove incitement for violence, then I'll vote acquittal.
When asked whether acquittal is a foregone conclusion, Tester said if people keep an open mind and listen to the evidence, it could be a close vote. He also said those saying the procedure is unconstitutional, including Senator Daines, are not willing to confront the evidence of what the president did on January 6th and leading up to that date.
That's typically what Senator Daines has done from the beginning. He's covered for this president, and he was one of the 13 people that spread the lie about the election being stolen until the rioters overran the United States Senate chamber.
A spokeswoman for Senator Daines called Tester's last comment a pointless jab at Montana's congressional delegation and said he should spend more time trying to work with his Republican colleagues. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Thanks, Mike. And senators are expected to vote on Trump's fate as soon as this weekend. Well, Montana Attorney General Austin Knudsen is among 14 attorneys general from across the country calling on President Biden to reconsider his decision to revoke the Keystone XL pipeline's presidential permit. Well, the AG's letter points out the harm of Biden's decision, negating thousands of jobs and lost economic activity and opportunity. In Montana, for instance, Knudsen writes, killing Keystone XL will likely cost the state approximately $58 million in annual tax revenue. Some of the counties stand to lose their biggest property taxpayer. Especially devastating, Knudsen points out, as 5 of the 6 impacted counties are designated high poverty areas. Now, the Keystone XL pipeline route would run some 285 miles, crossing through 6 counties in Montana. If completed, the pipeline would carry up to 830,000 barrels of oil per day from Alberta to Nebraska, then eventually onto the Gulf Coast refineries. Now, the letter also advises the president that the states are reviewing all available legal options to protect their citizens and interests. Also today, Senate Democrat Joe Manchin, the new chairman of the Senate Energy Committee, asked Biden to reconsider. Well, there's a new option for anyone hoping to get out of town. Allegiant Airlines will soon offer nonstop flights from Billings to Portland 2 days a week. The flights begin May 7th and ticket prices start at $59. Allegiant officials say they are excited to connect these two cities. Up next on tonight's MTN 530 News on Q2, meet a local doctor who prescribes reading as a tool for kids to learn and grow. And in sports, from pins to points, it's rivalry night on the mats between the Bronx and Bears. Scott gets us ready for the showdown in just a bit.